Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world and in the country and all sorts of things. As you may notice, I'm having to look over here a bit because I have moved house and I have a different studio, a different office. And in the process of moving, my main computer, which is usually behind me, the one that I stream from, you can see all the cool things in the background. The SSD has died. And despite me doing all my tricky stuff, because I do know a little bit about technical things, I can't get it working in time. So today I'm broadcasting to you from a different machine, so you get a different angle. Hey, it's the same principle. So I don't have a fancy blue screen background. And every so often, if I want to see what's happening in the chat, I'm going to have to look over here. And basically look a bit weird. But it's a packed event today, and we have a guest at some points as well. Let me just go through very quickly the comments because we don't want lots of people freaking out at us. And by the way, if I sound a bit echoey as well, this is literally nothing in the house and nothing in the office, so it's all a bit spacious and booming and stuff like that. But I'm told my microphone sounds all right. Normally I have my posh microphone behind me just there. So who have we got? Peter Pan is here, of course. Peter Pan is here, and Paul McGee as well. Paul, hello, Paul. Paul is very active in the Australian Delphi user group, and I will be appearing there, I think, on Friday, and hopefully by then I'll have my screens fixed. Otherwise, I'll be looking like this, and I'll be trying to organise screens so I look a bit more professional than I do. Boyan's here, of course. Boyan Mitoff. I've posted his website in the chat there, and we're going to talk about Boyan a couple of episodes time, I think, because we're going to talk about Internet of Things and stuff like that. And Boyan's got some great stuff for that. Barton Stano, hello Barton. He is convinced that producer Martha should get combat pay for working with me. It's a little harsh, I think, because I think I'm quite nice, really, but she does keep me under control and make sure that the links go out correctly. So today, the links are working properly. And in fact, we're picking up a few people, not as many as we normally do, but I'm sure it's fine. We're going to talk about books today. Let's see who else we've got. Patrick. Salut, Patrick. You're going to hear a lot about Patrick today because his website is mentioned. And Sanal, hello Sanal, how are you? And Stephen made it. Of course you did, Stephen. I know you're leaving early today, but you'll catch the replay. So hello to you in Chichester, which is one of those places that actually I think Americans can say, unlike Cirencester or Leicester, which they can't. I do have to go and educate people on the proper pronunciation of some of our more esoteric city and town names in England, which is obviously where I'm from. It's sunny on the south sea of UK. Actually, it's sunny for us too, but we have had tornadoes and things like that as well. So, and by the way, talking about weather, I just want to take a moment here to just mention our developers in Brazil. We have a lot of developers in Brazil. Many Delphi people and all sorts of other things as well. We also have a lot of MVPs, and we have a Brazilian office there with an educational specialist that we deal with there called Landerson. Very good guy. Brazil is a huge country. And hello from Brazil. Bom dia from Orlean Alencar. Sorry if I'm not saying your name properly. But this is something to mention. At the time we're recording this now, there are some very bad floods in the south of Brazil. Devastating floods in some cases. The water is not just like annoying, it is up to people's windows and flooding their houses and things like that. So the region is in the south of Brazil. Very bad. Hello to Kivian, Kivian Emerin is one of our MVPs there, who's kept me in touch. I did send out an email to some of those people, but if you're in Brazil and you are being affected by this, you know, I am sorry. I wish I had a magic wand and the barriers to stop the water flooding in. I hope you're all okay, and I hope you do get over this. Some of these things make us stronger, but it doesn't feel like it at the time. So it all good. Please, click on the like button. Oh yes, and that's another good point from Barton as well. Whilst we're doing this, if you're watching on YouTube, can you click on the like button and the subscribe button? it won't do anything. We won't spam you because we won't even know who you are. And we'll get absolutely zero money for it. We don't monetize the channel, so it's not about me getting some money or anything like that. What it does is if we do another video and we don't promote it in time, and in fact, there are some videos coming up that we're doing a webinar in a couple of weeks' time, which is actually a very interesting one with one of my partners, tech partners, who is going to be talking about doing some stuff with Amazon. If we don't get in time to publish these, or you miss the link, or you don't get the email or whatever, and I'm trying to make sure we don't spam you with information, if you click on like and click on subscribe, YouTube's algorithm will notify you that we're broadcasting live. It helps us to know what countries you are as well, because we do get demographics of roughly where people are, so we know we're talking to Brazil or China or whatever. But if you can click on like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. So thanks for mentioning that, Barton, and a fellow DFW person. And Barton, just so you know, I'm now living just north of Frisco. I know you're from the area, so you'll understand where I am. Much more civilized than where I was living before out in sticks. Hello, Brian from Atlanta, and hello to Austria. Kevin Woolley's back again. And Orlean says, thank you for mentioning Brazil. Hey, it's not a problem. I really mean it. If you're Brazilian and you're suffering, you know, we're all with you in spirit. There's nothing I can do personally, but you know, I hope it gets better soon. Right, so I'm going to get on with the presentation. Let me share my screen. Screen have I got? This one. Make sure I'm not showing anything I shouldn't, because you know how these things go. And I see my guest who's arriving later is joined already. We'll talk to him a bit later. So let's crack on. I'm going to turn my camera off because I think I'm probably still on the camera. Sorry about this. I have multiple things. There you go. I've disappeared, and now all you can see my wonderful slides. So that's great. Okay. So today is a slightly different webinar. We're not really talking about techniques as such, but more talking about where you can learn some more. Now, the whole point about these webinars has been to teach you about various bits and bobs. And who am I? Well, I am Ian Barker, and I'm sure the regulars know by now, I'm the developer advocate for RAD Studio and for Embarcadero in general. You'll also see me pop up on a few of the other related sister companies like Ultra Edit and Sencha and a few other things like that as well. I get about a lot. If you want to email me, and please do, about anything to do with RAD Studio or Delphi, then you can contact me at ian.barker@embarcadero.com. If you want to read about me and find out who I am and where I come from, then you can go to about.me/Ian Barker. I'm just going to move my collar out the way of my microphone because I can feel it rubbing. Today's slides, at the moment, that link is going to go directly to the products page. That's because it's a bit like Inception. I can't have the videos playing until I have recorded them, and then that link will go to a blog post with all the slides and everything in it. Where are we up? Well, today is the 14th of May. Recording this, and it is a Tuesday book club. That's what we're calling it. That's today. Next week we're going to talk, or next session we're going to talk about saving and remembering settings and options the right way. So if your user logs in using a particular username and you want to give them the opportunity to remember that, or what monitor their app was saved on, or some other just general settings, that session is going to show a lot more code and some components and things like that that allow you to remember form sizes and store them properly on cross-platform. So not just Windows, but also Linux and iOS and Android and Mac and Linux. So that should be interesting. And then the final one in this series of sessions, and then I'll be taking a week off because I'm going to Amsterdam to a summit there, the Delphi Summit. we will be building a sword fighting robot. That's if I can ever find the sword fighting robot in amongst all my things that are still in boxes after I moved house. We're going to build our own grocery store checkout. My wife is very annoyed about that. And a LoRa radio, or LoRa radio, which is the meme of the moment. Yes, I'm going to do all three things. It's going to be a good session. Where can you find this replay? Because we get asked this every single time. Just open the IDE, and on the right of the welcome page, if you view the welcome page, click on view and then welcome page, there is a learn tab, and all of the videos, if you've missed any of them, all of them will appear there, along with lots of others as well. But particularly my sessions are going to be appearing in that learn tab there. It covers everything from what RAD Studio is to how you can build mobile apps with RAD Studio, Windows apps with RAD Studio, Mac OS apps with RAD Studio, Linux apps with RAD Studio, what good standards there are to do with GUI, I think was the last time, and databases as well, how to connect to databases. After we've done this present series of sessions, I'm going to do a lot more code focused things where I'm going to actually show a lot more code and actually building some apps. And I'm going to pick some apps, and I might let my regular crowd come up and make suggestions of the apps that we're going to build, and we will build some apps to go with it. So today, though, is the book club. And yes, I have enlisted the help of a small child there. Hold the sign up. Hiya, thank you very much. And is going to hold up our book club sign for Delphi, RAD Studio, and C++. Most of these books are Delphi focused, just FYI, just because that's the way it's worked out. But there are other languages. I'm just resizing my screen a bit because I'm hampered by only having 2 screens at the moment. I normally have 3, and then I can have a chat window and still drive everything. Anyway, got it working. There you go. And what does this say here? Let me just size this over. There you go. Bit of live doing stuff. Right. So Nigel says hello. Greetings from Italy. Ciao. Hi from Hungary, and all the rest of it. Yes, I'm pleased to speak to you all as well. Hello from Mexico. Hola. Well, not very far from Mexico here. So let's talk about one particular site, and that is the site for finding out any type of book you can ever hope for. And later on, we are going to have one of the authors of the books come in and talk to me about his books, because he's got so many of them. Quite frankly, he's impossible to ignore. Plus, he's a very good friend of mine as well. We talk about all sorts of things, from the weather, hot tubs, and all sorts going on. I'm just seeing he's in the preview. Yes, he's paying attention. That's good. Yeah, I can see him in the little camera preview in the background. So let's go on and talk about this site, DelphiBooks.com. Go there. Every book you could ever imagine is there. There's a really good collation of books, and actually it's about to go through a redesign. The site owner is Patrick Prematan, and he actually didn't quite get around to finishing the redesign. He's going to turn it into Delphi Library, which I think is an excellent idea. But this is a work of love, of passion for the language, which I really like about our MVPs. Most of the guys that I deal with, and girls as well, are very passionate about this. But Patrick is also one in particular who's particularly passionate about what they do. And Delphi-books.com is the site to go to. If you want a Delphi book, all of the ones you see today are featured on there, and actually many of the links I got from that site, and some of the images as well. And I couldn't do it without the help of Patrick. He collates all that information for me. Is it me, or does the sound sometimes glitch for a second? Yes, possibly, Nigel. I'm on a weird headset, so I'm sorry for that. Patrick is not content with running one of the best book sites in the country to do with Delphi, but he also has a live stream that he does almost weekly, sometimes more often, sometimes less, and that's on twitch.tv, and then / Patrick Prematan. Patrick is actually my chosen, or our chosen Spirit of Delphi Award winner for 2023, 2024. And I believe I'm right in saying that I'm going to actually meet him in June when he's going to the Delphi Summit, which is coming up in June. And in fact, whilst we're doing that, I'm going to put a little QR code up on the screen. Let's see if I've got it. Oh, no, I can't do that. No, I've only got the caption. Okay, so the DelphiSummit.com. If you are in Europe, then you should go to this summit. If you can, everybody is going to be there. Me, Marco Cantu, you name it, anybody to do with Delphi is going to this summit. It's a fantastic summit. It's run in conjunction with GDK Software, who are a very big consultancy, I suppose we call them. I don't know what the proper name for them is. But also lots of other exciting things going on there. There are lots of other sponsors as well. I go to the site and you read all the sponsors. Embarcadero are taking part in some of that as well. But it's mainly GDK that are doing that. But anyway, I will hopefully see Patrick at that conference. If not, we'll do something another day. Right, so let's go back to my slide screen and talk about some of the books. Okay, so if we're going to talk about any books whatsoever, then probably the most important book really is the book. And it is the definitive guide to Object Pascal, Delphi, and RAD Studio. And if you are going to RAD Studio, then really you have to talk about the Object Pascal handbook. Now, at the moment it says 11 Alexandria edition. I can't remember if there's a version 12 out or planned, but certainly the 11 version, you can get it for free. You can go to the link that I've put there. It was a long link, so I shortened it using tinyurl.com and then /ENB Marco book. Go to that and you can download a free book. And it's a great book. It's got really what I would consider to be the authoritative guide on the Object Pascal language, which is Delphi, and also certain aspects of RAD Studio, because it talks about everything you can ever imagine. And Marco Cantu also helped with this book. He's just made the second release of this come out. It was originally published by an author called Pavel Glavaki, and unfortunately Pavel, he was Embarcadero's European technical lead for developer tools for a long time. He also spent 7 years working as a senior consultant and training for Delphi within the Borland Education Services when it was back in Borland. He also worked for Code Gear, and apart from doing that, he also represented Embarcadero internationally at conferences and a seminar speaker. And unfortunately, Pavel passed away in mid-December 2017. And every single Delphi MVP and people like that always talk about Pavel with some reverence, because he was a great guy, an absolute fountain of knowledge. Really was. Anyway, his book was Expert Delphi, and Marco Cantu, in conjunction with Pavel's widow, has actually produced an updated version. It's of course published by Packet. Packet, you'll see this name over and over again, because Packet basically dominate the market with Delphi books. But not everybody publishes via them, but quite a lot of people do. But this is a great book, Expert Delphi. Very, very worthwhile reading. When we're talking about databases, which we talked about last week, then one of the great books about that, and again, you can see this on the delphi-books.com, all the links are there. But this is by Dr. Carey Jensen, or Carey Jensen as he tends to call himself now. He's got a PhD, so technically he's a doctor, just like Dr. Holger Flick, who is in the same kind of level, I think. And FireDAC is all about the database layer that comes with RAD Studio. If you've got the Pro version, then you can connect to local databases. If you've got the Enterprise or Architect versions, then you connect to cloud databases and server databases. And it is absolutely an amazing technology, FireDAC. it does a lot more than you would think. When you first look at it and learn it, it's much more capable than you could imagine. And I think that if you go through this book, which is getting a little bit outdated now, then the Fired App book is going to teach you an awful lot of things about this. And Kerry Jensen is the one for that. He's a good guy. And good guys and smart people. Nick Hodges, also an ex-development manager, I think, for Embarcadero, possibly, maybe Borland or something like that. But anyway, he's a very well-known name in the industry. And there are 2 books by him. The first one is called Coding in Delphi. And the second one is called, would you believe, More Coding in Delphi. And both of these are by Nick Hodges, a very good developer, MVP, smart guy, a little bit passionate about certain subjects, like, for example, coding to interfaces. It's almost a kind of a cliche amongst the MVPs and things like that, you know, Nick is very passionate about these things, about interfaces and stuff like that. But if you're not sure what they are, then go and read these 2 books, Coding in Delphi and More Coding in Delphi, and it'll tell you all you need to know about it. And also, whilst we're still talking about Nick Hodges, because there's another one that just can't stop writing, and there's a few people like that, codingindelphi.com/DI in Delphi.html. But just go to codingindelphi.com. There's a link there. And it talks about dependency injection. Now, this is one of Nick's passions, shall we say. I've seen him get a little bit heated under the collar talking about interfaces and stuff like that. And, you know, he goes into quite some depth. And I'm being told Restream is having a few issues. But it's not my headset. Oh, okay. Well, as long as it's not me. Yeah. You're still good for time, by the way, Mr. Guest. Yes. I think he is. We'll see. Is he okay? I'm trying. I know he has other things to do. Yes, he's giving me the thumbs up. Okay. I can see him in a little preview camera, so I know he's talking to me. Okay. So, yes, Nick Hodges, dependency injection. If you're not sure what a dependency injection is, it's a way of decoupling the code from the data and also from the user interface. Nick's book is quite technical, and I have seen other explanations of it. One of the sites I'm going to talk about later is from Alistair Christie. I nearly called him Crispy. Alistair Christie, learndelphi.tv. He talks about dependency injection. I actually quite like his explanation. He does it in a few minutes. And he does dependency inversion as well, which is similar technology. It's kind of more computer sciencey type stuff, I think, you know, rather than plain ordinary coding. So some people will go, oh, God, that sounds incredibly complex way of writing code. But actually, there is a good reason for it. If you're writing professional code, then you want to be doing things like dependency injection and stuff like that. You'll find out one day in 5 years' time when you're working on someone else's program and they have not used this technique, you'll be cursing them, I can assure you. And talking about technical stuff, from the genius of threads and multitasking patterns, Dalia Prashnikar and Nevin Jr. Prashnikar, who I think helped edit it technically, is a book called Delphi Threads Safety Patterns. And if you want to learn more about Dalia's books, because I'm going to talk about a couple of them now, go to Dalia, that's DALIJA.Prashnikar.info. That is her website. Go there and her books are listed on there. Sometimes Dalia can be a little bit like Nick, focused on something and say, no, you're wrong. And I like that in people. I like people that are passionate about subjects. And Dalia is one of those people where I honestly do not know anybody who knows more about threads and multitasking and stuff like that. She is extremely smart person. I've got a lot of respect for her. She's an excellent coder. I wouldn't want to have an argument with her about parking or something, because I get the impression that she would probably win. She's quite forceful in her explanations sometimes, but she'll laugh at this. And she's also a very good photographer, by the way. But anyway, Thread Safety Patterns, excellent book, very, very well worth reading. I have actually got that book as well myself. And another book by Dahlia about event-based and asynchronous programming. Again, it's on a similar sort of subject. And just in case you're bored and you thought, well, two's not enough, I want a third book, then you can go to the same site, and there's the one about Delphi memory management. Now, the interesting thing about Delphi memory management is to do with, she talks about releasing memory in safe ways, and how she even criticizes runtime libraries, for example, Delphi runtime libraries. But she also talks about things like the ARC, which is the auto reference counting part of compilers. If you're new to Delphi, then you might not understand what that is, but it just means that when you create an object, you don't actually have to free it up later. It does it yourself. You can get into a little bit of trouble with memory management. If you've got a program that seems to bloat itself and go completely crazy, then it's probably to do with the memory management, and that's why this book's so great. Here's another one. Also, again, really kind of a computer sciencey type idea, and that is Design Patterns with Delphi. I think it's an amazing book. It helps to teach you good architecture and techniques. And when you study computer science, you'll learn about things like design patterns. Design patterns are ways of coding, typical ways of doing things in code that have been established by a thing called the Gang of Four, for example. If you go to wikipedia.org and then look for software design pattern, you'll see more about design patterns and some arguments for and against them. But generally, in my opinion, they are a good thing as long as you're careful the way that you use them. But this book talks about how to implement those in Delphi. Very, very useful, very great book. Another one by the same author, who is Primoz Gabrielčić, and I apologize, Primoz, if I said your name wrong, but I'm doing my best. And it's superb tips on how to make your application fly. He does some very interesting things to do with caching data and data structures that are faster than others and things like that. And again, same author. Go to packetpub.com and go there. And Stephen's saying, got to go in. Thanks and bye till next week. Yes, I understand. No problem, Stephen. Catch us on the replay. And it's a Delphi High Performance, great book, really, really worthwhile. I like that. Another one that's more tips and techniques and stuff like that. Daniele Spinetti and Daniele Tetti, both of them based in Italy, as the names might have hinted. And really, this is got some great ideas in it. And that is, I'm going to sneeze on it. Hold on. Nope. Everything from cross-platform control alignment, which can be a problem, to Internet of Things, real-time type information, XSLT, which is a way of extracting and understanding the what an XML set of data is. I'm mashing this explanation. XSLT is about transforming XML so that you can understand what that data is, and also format it in certain ways, give it certain conditions and types and stuff like that. That's a rubbish explanation. Read their book. They've got a much better explanation than I've given it. It talks about JSON. Mats Larsen says that the cookbook is great. D&D's cookbook. Yes, I absolutely agree. It's a great book. I've got it myself. In fact, I think probably all these books I've got here I've bought, or I've been given review copies or something like that, because that happens because of what I do. And sometimes, people like Packet want me to publish some books and stuff like that. But great book, covers absolutely everything you can imagine. Another one from one of our MVPs is by Andrea Magni, another Italian. They're very strong in the Delphi area. And I have to say, I know quite a bit about Delphi, as you might imagine, given my role. And I do need to understand how lots and lots of things work. But I have to say, when I first got this book, there were things in there about FileMonkey I did not know, and I was actually quite impressed. He came out with some very interesting things to do with animations and stuff like that. And he does, one of his examples is an animated control that he doesn't have any code, but what he does is shows a please wait animation. I think that's right. I think that's his explanation. But yeah, really, really good book, and absolutely 100% recommend it. Very, very good. Delphi GUI programming with FileMonkey, once again at Packet. All these links will be in the blog post afterwards, so don't panic. If you haven't noted them down, you'll be able to get them. And also go to delphi-books.com and you'll be able to see them there. David Cornelius, his book on fearless cross-platform development, which when he first told me about this title, because I knew about the book before it was released, I had to laugh because fearless. I thought, actually, you know what? It's not a bad title, really. First of all, it attracts your attention and think, oh God, should I be scared of cross-platform development? But also, some people are. They're worried that, when they write an app and they push it out on iOS or Android or something like that, it's all going to go horribly wrong. And if their Mac OS app or something just completely go, knees up, shall we say, or belly up, it's a great book. I actually like this. I think there's another one I bought as well. I wasn't given I might have been given a copy, but anyway, really, really good book. I loved it. Actually, no, that's right. I bought this and then they gave me a free copy. So, but you know what? I like supporting the authors. I think it's worthwhile. And one subject, let's talk about Dr. Holger Flick. Well, Holger is like Mr. Prolific when it comes to books. I swear he doesn't sleep because I know he codes a lot as well. He codes full time, and plus he does a lot of explaining videos for TMS Software, who are a very big component developer tech partner. They have controls for everything, maps and web stuff, and you name it, they've got it, cross-platform stuff. There's a couple of others around, DevExpress and people like that, but TMS Software have been around for a long time and very, very passionate about it. And Holger is, I'm not sure his exact title, we'll ask him another time when we speak to him, but he's kind of the chief product expert, explainer. I don't like the word evangelist because it makes it sound like he's going to try and spray holy water on you or something like that. I can see him in the preview and he's got his hands up in the air. But yes, you get a general idea. Yes, I shall smite thee, that kind of thing. But anyway, he's got some really great books. And when I say really great books, there are a lot of them. I mean, some people are quite prolific. There's a couple of people with 2 or 3, but I think Holger's now up to book 5 or something like that. But we'll ask him. But again, hands on Delphi. This one is all about multi-tier platform access and stuff like that. Really, Holger's books are very popular with people and very well liked, and his explanations are clear and very easy to understand, and he takes you from knowing nothing to absolutely understanding the subject. And one particular subject which is actually very, very useful is the TMS Web Core. If you don't know what TMS Web Core is, it is a technology that allows you to write Delphi code and then hit compile, and out comes a load of HTML and JavaScript and produce websites from your Delphi code. I've used this. I worked on a very large project that the customer wanted to have the thing as a desktop app, which they then converted to a website. I did counsel them on, the differences between desktop apps and websites, but that's what they wanted. And it actually came out and looked identical. And I mean identical. And it was WebCore that did that. Well, if you read Holger's book, he will tell you everything you need to know about WebCore and why it's a good technology. And some of the techniques like using templates and stuff like that. I forget exactly what it says because, I read a lot of books and I have a short attention span. And the last book that I'm going to talk about for now is his most recent book, which is a complete application from start to finish described in the book. Now, I would put a little disclaimer in here. I actually wrote the foreword for this book because Holger and I hang out and we are buddies. And, I actually saw the copies before it was went to print and looked through it and had a quick run over some of the technical details. Extremely good book. He's a very good author. And this book, if you want a book that shows you how to write an app from nothing to a running app that's got cloud-based database stuff and ORM and things like that, then this is the book for you. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Just a quick question from someone. Anything about C++ builder, like programming with FireMonkey? Actually, Johannes, the book to do with FireMonkey by Andrea Magni is actually, it applies to both Delphi and C++ builder. The last book I bought, he says, was C++ Builder's 6 Developer Guide. Yes, I'm aware of someone who's writing a C++ Builder book at the moment as well, an updated one. I don't know how far they've got. I haven't spoken to them for a month or so, but there you go. But we'll talk about that in a minute. And just before we go to our guest, talk about a couple of things. Another book which I really like is Code Faster in Delphi. You need to go to learndelphi.tv/code faster. And this is by Alistair Christie. Alistair is based in, I think it's New Zealand. He's going to hate me if I got it wrong and he's Australian. It's a bit like calling a British person American or American British. They get very upset. But to the rest of the world, they sound very similar. Yes, I think if you read this book, I absolutely am certain that you'll learn something you didn't know about RAD Studio, because I use it. I get up every day and I write code with RAD Studio, and I do C++ stuff and I do Delphi stuff. And even though it's a Code Faster in Delphi, I tell you, this book will teach you something, because it's got shortcuts to the ideas, how to set up projects, how to do multiple projects, build events, and all sorts of things that are not very commonly described by people. So if you want to learn how to actually get a bit more proficient, and not really the intrinsics of how to write code, but as in, this line of code will do this, more about how you actually code itself in the IDE. And I really like this description here, so I put it in red, and that is code better in Delphi. And he says, if you want to avoid being a highly efficient spaghetti coding machine, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And it's all about how not to write spaghetti code and how to write Delphi code so it's clear and maintainable, which once you become a professional coder, then maintainability of code is actually just as important as functionality of the code, i.e. it's got to work, but also behind the scenes, some poor soul behind the scenes, maybe in 3 years' time, and it could be you, is going to come back and look at that code and have to understand how on earth it works. So definitely a great book. And while we're on the subject, and I'll tell you why I'm bigging him up at the moment, we're also going to talk about 3 places to go to if you want to actually know more about that. And then our guest is going to talk about his streaming as well. And that is learndelphi.tv. If you go there, Alistair Christie has a YouTube channel, which he does lots of streaming on. I already talked about Patrick earlier on, Patrick Premontan, and streaming there. But if you go to learndelphi.tv, he has got hundreds of videos. And we're actually doing a deal with him where we're going to take some of that content and put it out onto some of our own sites as well, and do a series and a few other things as well. I had a long chat with him. Very, very generous developer. Very community-minded. I can't say enough good things about Alistair. He's a great guy. And there is also Embarcadero, where you can go and learn all sorts of things. And in fact, that is actually where the official Delphi certification lives, if you want to become a Delphi certified developer. And I think there's a Delphi certified master or something, master certification. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's where the certification comes from. Some companies you go to, if they want you to be a developer in Delphi, they will ask you if you're certified. Not all of them, but it is a recognized thing. It's a little bit, some of the courses, they're a little bit out of date, but they are improving them. And we have started developing some of our own content for that site, and we're going to help them revamp it and produce a lot more content of our own training courses. If you signed up for Delphi and RAD Studio just recently, you probably got an offer that gave you free RAD server training and free mobile development course from me, and that's where it's going to be at Embarcadero Academy. And finally, while talking about training and things like that, the other site is Udemy. Now, if you go to that tiny URL, so tinyurl.com/Delphi Udemy, what it will do is do a search for you and come up with any courses to do with Delphi. There are quite a few, and some of them are for people like Alistair, and some of them are for people like Hugh Collingbourne, who's a very well-known journalist in the UK, and a few other people as well. The same thing for C++ Builder. If you go where that search is, where it says Delphi, replace that with C++ Builder, and then you'll get a lot of information from Udemy. Okay, so let's go to the Q&A. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn my camera back on and stop sharing my screen. And so you should see me again here in all my glory. And in the background, if I turn him on, so to speak, that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? We should be able to have Dr. Holger Flick. Woohoo! How you doing? Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted? Your microphone might be muted. Oh, see,
okay, now it's unmuted.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah,
yes,
perfect.
right.
Yeah. In the middle of the session, somebody, I think it was your assistant, muted me.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
But I have muted myself just in case, you know.
That'll be the wonderful producer, Martha. She mutes me all the time, but mainly because she doesn't want to hear me. I think she muted you because it was just technically a better thing. But yeah, we'll just have a quick look at some of the questions because So Matt Larson, I think he was talking about your book here. He said the blue and green ones are good.
Those are Nick's, actually.
Like oh, are they? Oh, my apologies.
And I agree. It's like coding with Delphi and more coding with Delphi. They're really good.
Just in case people are thinking that I don't actually have these books, is that back to front for you? It's back to front for me. I think it's the right way around. But I have many books by Holger here, and a few others as well. I actually buy, if people have PDF books and things like that, then I actually do get the PDFs as well, or the ebooks, because I have a very expensive Kindle that I have to justify myself for having.
By the way, you can mirror the camera, Ian. Everything is mirrored. I mean, it's kind of fun if you look into a mirror, but
I don't know whether it shouldn't be mirrored when you're looking at it now. I mean, it should be okay. I mean, I don't know. All I know is my preview seems to be mirrored. But anybody want to type in the chat? Are the books round the right way? Someone's bound to say yes or no in a moment. We'll see. Anyway, so your book's really great. This book, this is your latest book, isn't it? This is book 4, it says. Is that? You can hold it up.
It's like number 6 or so, because I also had like a German book about TMS Web Core, and TMS Web Core, the big one, is already the second one. So
I always pretend the German one doesn't exist.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take a break from books for now, and I'm going to focus on making these kind of things also available as video courses. You know, that's my next focus.
Oh, it says I am backward, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can. Oh, see now.
Yeah, now it's correct. Yeah.
Now it's correct.
Perfect.
Apparently. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it's a strange default from Restream.
Do you know what happened? I moved house.
Yeah.
And it's a great house. My office is much bigger. But apart from, I drove the removal truck. This has got nothing to do with books. 26 foot long, and I just arrived in the neighbourhood, reversed over my neighbour's mailbox. So I was like, "Hello, neighbours! I just smashed your mailbox." Yes, I'm a new neighbour, and they looked at me as if, oh God, what have we done? But actually, they were nice. They said, yeah, we did that when we moved in as well. So apparently, it's a common thing. It's a slightly narrow road. Yeah. So just asking a couple of questions. Barton Stano says, I'm mirrored. Bean Tree says Ian's backward. I think he's being. Is that a double meaning there? Ian is backward. Yeah.
Don't read between the lines, Ian.
Yeah, exactly. So, so let me just put up a couple of QR codes. Earlier on, if you people scan this code, which I think is up here. Anyway, it's in the right-hand corner of the screen.
How do I do?
It'll take you. I know, it's weird, isn't it? It's over there. See, we're both
going to the other side.
Yeah. So if you scan the QR code, it will take you directly to the Delphi Books website, where all the books that you saw today are there, including Holger's. So Holger, and you got your MVP shirt on today, I see. Is that right? I never got one of those. In all the time I was an MVP.
Yeah, well, you don't need one anymore. You have.
Well, I don't need one now. No,
yeah.
I've got the boss level MVP one. So there you go. But I mean, I have to say, your books are pretty good. I mean, your most recent book, what was kind of the philosophy behind that? Because you were trying to really, I think, explain development from the ground up. Is that right?
Yeah, I really try to explain everything from project creation, like it's a VCL application, we create it, and then we literally look at like the directory structure, adding a git ignore, adding a git attributes file so that you can use it in version control. And then we start building the database model using object relational mapping with TMS Aurelius. And we go from there. Then we hook up the user interface to the object model, and it's all step by step. And the example is, in this case, in the end, you'll build an accounting application, but that should not be the focus, what the actual application does. But because I picked this environment, you learn about different types of data, like image data, binary data. You learn about programmatically importing things into your data model, but also having the user enter data using grids, using dialogues, model dialogues. And you build each separate module. And in the end, we'll extend that application to have a web service attached so that you could even build a web application, or in this case, we just built a web service that allows you to download information. So in this example, we can also create invoices. Invoices are created with flex cells based on the data from the database. You create a PDF, and this PDF is then also available through the web service. So you can create a link that you can send out to customers so that you don't have to attach the PDF, which is kind of important nowadays, that you don't attach confidential information to emails. So you can provide a link, and it's basically showing the whole picture, how to build a modern Delphi application. I also show a screenshot of an iOS application that I built in Swift that hooks up to that example. Obviously, we're not going to explain how the Swift application works, but I wanted to make sure that
I know Delphi is better than Swift. So,
so I agree. I've definitely spent more time with Delphi. So the motivation was, however, that you as a Delphi developer are aware what is going on in other languages, so that if you create a JSON document, that you create the JSON document in a way that other programmers that use other applications can consume that information easier without going through hoops. Which means, for example, that you use camel case for your JSON, because that's the pseudo standard. You don't have the Pascal case with a capital letter in the beginning. These are tiny little things that don't require you to write a lot of code. It's just a custom attribute that you add to your classes, but it's going to make a whole lot of difference for your application, how others perceive it, that you automatically can basically document your API because you use the Xdata product from TMS. But I'm always saying, hey, this is just an example. Thanks, Francis. This is just an example. You can use any technology, and the nice thing is you see the VCL application really from the beginning until the end. And of course, Because I want people that buy my books not to pay for the same stuff. That's something I disliked when I purchased books in my early years. Like you bought one book from an author, and some parts kept repeating. If they use the database, they explain the database stuff in each of the books. So in this book, it's really the process for creating the VCL application with TMS Aurelius database model. And you get an example how to build it with full source code, but the details, how to do X data in detail, you'll find that in the other books. Of course, you can turn it around on me and say like, well, you just want to sell all your books, but why would I repeat the same thing over and over and over again in each of my books? It doesn't make any sense, especially for people who buy the Aurelius book for ORM and not for X data. They would be like, why do I have to read about this?
But the interesting thing as well is that your most recent book, the one where you literally develop an application, you said to me, I remember you saying like it took like a week or 2 weeks or something to write the application. It was like that. I was just, and that's why I like to promote this, because one of the things I keep telling people about RAD Studio is that RAD means rapid application development. That's why I like it, because a customer will come to me and say, hey, we need an application to do X or Y. First of all, I can do it because Delphi or RAD Studio has got every kind of possible capability you want. And secondly, I know it's not going to take me 6 years to do, or 5 months or 6 weeks or whatever, but it's going to take me quite a few smaller amount of time. And in your book, it was quite amazing that this is not just a toy application; it's a fully working application from start to finish.
I actually use it for my own accounting, because here in Florida,
there you go.
It's pretty simple.
And you're off to tax prison next week.
So obviously it doesn't have any automatic tax import export, but it's enough to print my invoices, and at the end of the year I know how much income, how much cost, for what the cost was. It's very basic. You could, and this is what I want to trigger, that you start to extend this example or build your own example. I don't know, build your own custom DVD database and hook it up to one of those web services out there that you can retrieve the information from, stuff like that. And it should come very, very easily after looking through that content. And the tools from TMS that I use in this case make it very easy to basically abstract from the things that you do over and over and over again. The framework takes it off your hands. And I can't say it enough. And this is, I know this is an Embarcadero webinar, but like Delphi really helps us to build software that is a good partner in the modern world. Like with Delphi, I can build, be it with RAD Server or with TMSX data or with one of the open source solutions out there. You can create web services that can be used by any modern web application if you have, for example, a bigger company where the web application is outsourced. So you can provide the API so that your web development team can use the information from your databases. And Delphi, in my opinion, is still, I've looked at other solutions, for example, like Express in the Node.js world. You mentioned FireDAC. If you have Kerry Jensen's book, FireDAC, and that in conjunction with TMSX data, you have so many things that you can literally drop on the data module. You select the things from a context menu, what you want. You want cores for your security. You want an additional middleware, and it's all rapid application development. And I know that sometimes the learning curve is higher than. But when we started with Delphi in the mid 90s, the VCL was also, I clearly remember how difficult it was to get into the mindset of the VCL, coming from Turbo Pascal, coming from Turbo Vision. All these concepts were rather new to me. So now, in my opinion, especially in the year 2024, it is time for us as Delphi developers to, the book title from was kind of good. Not to be afraid. You know, we have to
Yeah.
basically accept
Feel
the fact that the web is a
cross-platform
major
development.
part, you know. And
Yeah.
we also have to accept that there's a lot of misinformation out there, that Delphi is no longer the right tool for the job. So, okay, but
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
definitely the quickest tool to get things done for most of the things I need to get done, you know.
the thing about Delphi for me is that the problem we have is that Delphi applications just work. You know, they do, you know, how many times have you been to some website? Let's say you're booking a holiday or you know, buying some furniture or something, and you're on your phone or whatever, and the thing just doesn't work. You'll click on a button and you get some weird, obscure error message. You have no idea what it means, and it's ASP or something else like that. And the same with .NET application. I'm not knocking .NET. There's nothing wrong with .NET when used in the right way. And you can write bad Delphi programs. You can write bad .NET programs. But how often do you get an app that will just not work in weird ways, and you can't understand what it is? You upgrade Windows or you install some Windows patch, and the whole thing falls to pieces. Oh,
Correct.
sorry, you've got the wrong version of Python or whatever.
Yes.
You know, I keep saying this. I have like a client server app. It fits on a little USB memory stick, that as big as my finger. Plug it in, and it just works. It just works out of the box. No dependencies, no nothing.
That's the number one thing that I have to say. Like when basically web, TMS Web Core, if you want to get started with web, and then this gives you a really good basically link between the web and the VCL. However, just one final thing about why I think writing web services with Delphi and not with Web API or with any of the Node.js JavaScript solutions. Obviously, the JavaScript solutions, we have to say it by the name, are all free. You know, like if you go there, it's. But the problem is, just look at a video from somebody who presents these things from 2019, and even in 2019, if you look at a course, the final videos are all things that have changed in the last 6 months. And in 2020, 2022, essential core things always change in these frameworks. And this is just what you have to deal with. And the problem is because it's many packages that you have to use when you get into this world. You have a lot of things that change very, very quickly. And with also with the open source, I use TMSX data so I can have a pretty good feel for it. I wrote the first book about TMS Web Core in 2017, and I can still run the application that I wrote in 2017 with TMS Web Core today. And that's
if
you look at React or if you look at Next.js didn't exist, I think. But all these new web frameworks that are out there, like Angular or even Flutter, with even if you accept that you have to learn a different language, the speed, same with Microsoft .NET and Web API, the speed, how quickly these things change. So for JavaScript, it's free, yes, but I spend a lot of time, meaning a lot of money, on looking how things work now, because it's different from how they worked like a year ago. And that's why I think Delphi is still
you know, you've nailed there something that's also a key thing about RAD Studio, is that we actually, and we being Embarcadero, go out of our way to ensure backward compatibility. And in fact, people say, oh, it's missing some modern language feature. I've had that said a few times from people, and I've asked them, what one are you missing? And not like the ternary operator. Okay, all right, well, you know, that's some. And a couple of other things as well. And some of them are valid criticisms. You know, there are some things that, but more importantly, as you pointed out, you can take a Delphi 4 program, and within reason, you can open it in RAD Studio 12 and it will still work and compile. And particularly most recent ones like 2009, XE, XE3, XE4 will still work absolutely fine in RAD Studio as well, because that's how the focus is on the language. It's not about being old-fashioned, because we add new features in all the time that more modern things. Certainly collections were one of the big things and stuff like that, but and generics but also, if we're going to do it, we don't want to break things, because there's a lot of code out there that you don't want to smash up by accident. How many times does that happen to me in other languages?
Correct.
Where they go, oh, sorry, that's a deprecated feature. We got rid of that, 2 months ago. 2 months ago?
Yeah,
You just wiped it out. Oh, yeah, we deprecated it last month.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, really? You're talking only 3 months? For what reason?
Yeah, you mentioned ASP. Like, just think of ASP. That's the best example I always bring. Like, it's a little bit back. So ASP.NET had first they had a designer, right, where you could drop components. Then they decided, that might not be the right way.
Yeah,
we're still gonna do model.
That's the way.
Yeah, and then we're still gonna do model first. And then all of a sudden they say, oh no, let's do code first. And like 6 months later, we said like, oh, code first. No, let's do model first again, And then in between, you always had like entity framework for the object relational mapping, and it always changed separately. So it was really, really difficult to get a hang of it. And I had the same kind of experience the first time I looked at React in the JavaScript world in 2019. Because, in order to write these books, I need to basically think that this is still the thing that gets you there fastest. So I have to look at the other solutions in order to know what I'm talking about. And in 2019, I looked at React and I was like, okay, this is how it works. And then I looked after, like last year, I looked again at it for the first time. I said, like, did you have a brain spark or something? This looks completely different. And it really was, because the JavaScript language changed. They have now module imports, which they didn't have. They have Lambda functions, which they didn't have. They have 3 different ways to define a variable, which they didn't have in the beginning. When you and I learned JavaScript, it was var. Now they have var, let, and const. So and
that's TypeScript kind of stuff, isn't it, as well?
There's just many things that you and I were unaware of because we're Delphi developers. But in just like 3 years, these things completely changed. And that did not happen with Xdata. Instead, Xdata expanded what you can do with it. They added new middlewares. They made it easier to authenticate or authorize your users. They added a new product, Sphinx, that makes that even easier. They added, they made sure that it stays compatible with the latest FireDeck drivers, and all these things, And yeah, as Sylvian says, like Rave is literally that has become deprecated, but it's still available though, And that's
some of these things, unfortunately, reporting is one of those things that's actually dependent on some of the hardware and the technology to visualize things on the screen. So it can get difficult when you suddenly go from in the early 2000s having screens that 1080p was kind of high res, to now I'm talking to you, the screen I'm looking at the moment in front of me is a 4K screen. That one behind me there is a 2K screen, and the one next to me, that one is a 1920 by 1080, so HD. So things move on. Let me
with reporting, because Sylvian mentioned it. Sylvian, have a look at Flexel. Even though if that product doesn't sound like a reporting engine, you can do a lot of stuff with it. It's great.
Bruno is now going to go.
It's not tied to Excel at all. It doesn't have to do. You don't need a Microsoft license. It is not using Office automation. This thing literally re-implement. I talked to the engineer quite often, and he always said, like, I literally rebuild Excel in Delphi more or less, So you can create documents with it, but the key is that you can, without Excel being installed, you can create a PDF document, you can create images, you can preview them in your application.
The good thing about that product is so many people use Microsoft Excel as a database. And when you get that product, Flexel, is perfect, because I wrote an app It was a fairly sophisticated app, I have to say. But what it did was it had tabs across the bottom, and it allows them to instantly search across a wide variety of these spreadsheets that are all sorts of different formats, and extract information and have it highlighted in a unified view for these tech support guys. Because the owner of the company, who I'm not going to be working for soon, but that's something different. But they insist on using Excel, and this is the problem. Out there in the IT world, people are just, they don't care about what your fancy new .NET language does. They're still quite happy, thank you very much, with their 2003 version of Microsoft Excel or something horrible like that. And that's why Delphi programmers have to go and cope with these things. Let me ask you a question, okay?
One second. The title is, Sylvian, the title is Flexcel. It's Flexcel.
Oh, yes. I can put that in the chat.
Okay.
Hang on, Flexcel like that.
I guess they wanted to imply it's flexible Excel. And it's available for all different platforms. Like you can even have it for .NET. It's available for, and the best thing is, and then I'm going to stop the advertisement section, it compiles under Linux. So if you want to deploy your stuff under Linux, you can have your reporting server running under Linux. It works fine. The fonts, of course, because of licensing restrictions, you have to install the Microsoft fonts on the Linux, but it works great. I use it.
My thing I always say about this is, if they stop making good components, I'll stop talking about them. Simple as that. And I do try and give a fair crack of the whip to every other tech partner as well. And we've got webinars coming up with some of them as well, because I try to treat them evenly. But the problem with TMS is they have so many components. It's very difficult not to kind of bump into something that they do.
The Excel sheet, you're able to, with if you look at the quick start of Flexcel, you're able to, within an hour, you can write a tiny little tool that imports your your Excel document, whatever file format it is. It also supports all the versions from the different tabs into a SQLite database, and then you can use all the great Fire Deck features, And nowadays, with modern computers, importing a file locally doesn't take that long, and SQLite is blazing fast if you adhere by a few rules, like, for example, disable the journal. A lot of people forget that.
We're gonna have to ban Paul McGee, by the way, because he still uses Microsoft Excel 2003. So
yeah, that's
been banned from now on. Yeah, and Barton says he loves fast report. Yeah, and also Francis, who clearly you've paid off for these sterling 5-star reviews, says he's got all of your books and they're his Bible. So there you go. He probably has to swear on them or something like that when he's taking an oath about writing Delphi code. I know Francis, by the way. I've actually had a meeting with him. Very good guy. Okay, well, look, we're cracking on time. It's always good for you to come on. I'm going to look at you this way so that I look like I'm facing on. Bart says, I'm very confused with your products and how they license. Actually, we'll just quickly answer that for a second. Point out they're not Holger's products. He doesn't actually create them himself. He's talking about TMS software's products, which is something different. And the best idea is just email the TMS software people, and they will get in touch. If you do email Holger, he can pass it on to them as well. But or email me, ask me, and I'll pass it on to Bruno, who's the CTO, I think, the CEO of stuff like that. So what else have we got? And TMS Flexcel for VCL and FMX by TMS software. Oh, that was the price. Yes. Okay, that's it. Yeah. In the top left there, you should see a little barcode. No, that way again. That goes to Alistair Christie's site, which is a very good site. I think Holger knows Alistair as well. I think we all know Alistair, actually, most of the MVPs and people like that. Great guy, but he's.
I think it's New Zealand. I think you were right that it's New Zealand.
He lives on what's called a lifestyle block. It makes me very jealous because apparently it's it's like a kind of homestead, I suppose you'd call it, like a farm in the US.
I think
But not a farm.
I think Paul McGee, who is still using Excel 2003, he's Australian, or he lives in Australia at least.
He is, yeah.
That might be the reason, maybe.
I'm talking to him on Friday, so probably. So yeah, he is. I don't know. I mean, they're all over the other side of the world, so we don't have to worry about them too much. They can't get me, and just I physically fly over there, so I'm good. Yeah, if they fire rockets from Australia, they won't reach me, so I'm good. Okay, all right. Well, look, Holger, thanks very much for coming in. We did already talk about your website, but we'll mention it again just in case. holgerscode.com/books, and it's all good.
There's also a link to video courses. They're not. I don't have them on Embarcadero Academy. They're on a separate page together with Wagner Landgraf. We offer them there.
Another good developer as well. Yes, exactly. Okay, well, thanks very much. I'm going to turn you off. So
bye. Thanks for the invite, Ian.
No worries. Speak to you soon. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. I think we're going to call it a day there. Let's see if we've got a few more chats. Barton says, "Sorry, I will email TMS." But Barton, if you feel like you need to email me, excuse me. Oh, I'm choking. Where has it gone? There it is. Email me if you're stuck, and I will make sure that questions for TMS or people like that, or DevExpress or any of our other tech partners, they will get passed on. I'm not there for technical support. I do get people sometimes emailing me with questions that are technical questions. I do answer some of them if they're relatively straightforward, but I'm not really there to provide support. We have a whole support department way better at it than me. I'm just a coder. These guys are focused on coming up with the answers. But if there's something that you need, some advice that you need to do with a tech partner, or there's something you like or don't like about Embarcadero, if there's something you think we could be doing or shouldn't be doing, email us. I do not want Embarcadero to be a faceless corporation that you feel like we're not getting in touch. We're not responding to emails, because that is not true. I am very, very busy, and as you can see from my ad hoc office situation, I also have quite a busy personal life because all my stuff's not working and in boxes. And if you could see all the boxes outside that door, you'd be like, oh, good grief, how is he even broadcasting? But I managed it. Yes, I do encourage you to get in touch, because we're not, if you try and email someone at Microsoft, you might eventually get a reply, or maybe you post something on a forum and perhaps you might get supply, because they're a very big, very successful organization, but their policy is not really quite the same as ours in terms of responsiveness. I don't want us to be that. I want you to like our products, and I want you to use our products, and lots of people do, literally millions of people do. And I want to know what is good about them and what is bad about them, and what we can change and what we can't change. Because you say, no, I don't want this particular feature to move around or change or whatever, because it's essential to my job, or I really love it or whatever. Get in touch and talk to us. And, if it's a good idea is a good idea. And if we can implement it reasonably without bankrupting the company and without, taking 75 years of development time to do it, then of course we're going to do it, because a good idea makes sense for everybody. But I can tell you, everybody at Embarcadero, who actually works for the Embarcadero, is very passionate about software development. They're passionate about our products, and they really do believe in trying to get the best product that it can. We make mistakes, there are bugs sometimes and things like that, but we do our best to try and rectify that. Each time we release a product like 12.0 and 12.1, we try and put in a massive amount of quality fixes and things like that. Sometimes we introduce a bug, and if we can, we'll try and fix it as soon as we can and rectify it, because we don't want that. But it's an extremely complicated process. But I'm not trying to give excuses. We need to get better at that. But overall, I believe, particularly in the last 12 months, we've improved immensely and we are very responsive. So if you've got something you're not happy with, email me here. And if it's something you are happy with, and particularly I get quite a lot of emails saying, hey, I really like the streams, and email me there, ian.barker@embarcadero.com. We are real people, we will respond. And also in the top right corner there, top left hand corner there is the blog as well, the official blog. So all of the replays for the webinars will be in your IDE, and you'll also be able to see the slides and replay from this webinar on the blog. But it is 15 minutes past the hour. We're back next time with how to save settings properly and things like that. But in the meantime, thanks very much. I'll speak to you all again soon. Bye-bye.